Hey guys, J.K. White of Baseball Rebellion. So here we are. We got Hank Aaron loaded up now, and we all know who Hank Aaron is from his numbers. And really, it's funny if you look back at his whole career. I mean, the guy just put up impressive power numbers, home run numbers every single year. Obviously, led to being the all-time home run record holder for a long time, and a very special guy for sure. And he did it for a very long time, and it's really fun to see him and Mays. Obviously, had outstanding careers, and we're gonna break him down for a little bit, and really again looking at more of his lower half, tremendous athletic movement forward and gaining ground and things you're going to see there, very similar to what we saw Mays do a little bit ago. And here we go. So here we go in his stance, a little bit more of a narrow stance guy than Willie Mays. Had his hands a little bit higher as well. Mays had a little bit lower hand position, a little more cocked bat with his feet a little bit wider. But again, everybody's a little different in that respect. We're going to see how they move. We're going to see what makes them the same, what makes them a little bit different. So the first things first, all right, he begins to what? That's right, move forward. And I really like it because you can really start to see like his hips and his butt kind of slide forward before he picks his foot off the ground. Okay, and what that tells me is he's just kind of leaning forward, timing it up with the pitch, and then when he feels like he needs to pick his foot up and start to go, he goes. And at that time, he's not reaching a ton with his front foot right now. He's kind of letting gravity and letting himself just kind of fall forward, and then he begins to go out with his front foot. You can see his back leg do a great job of just falling. So he sets this angle here and just falls and continues to fall forward all the way to that front leg. And you see that distance. I mean, that's the thing. Kids today and coaches today are so scared of that movement forward. But, all you got to do is look back to your heroes, guys, and look back to who was hitting home runs when you were kids and listening to it on the radio and watching TV. I mean, these guys were. And somewhere down the line, we lost this, okay? We got to get back to this type of movement because not all of us are going to be big. And he was about 6'1", 180, so a little bit bigger than Willie Mays, but he's still moving. I mean, that's the thing. Even these big guys at this time were moving too, and this is what we want to see our guys do. Really get used and not afraid and aggressive in their forward move. And you can see the same thing. You can see his barrel go up to get to a good position so that when he lands, he's going to turn that barrel from behind him. But again, you're seeing his knee flex. Now, I think he's a little bit suboptimal, if you will, here. You can see how he's trying to open his belly, but his foot does look a hair closed, and his knee is facing the camera a little bit. Now, this camera view is a little different, so I cut him a little slack there, but we do think that there is a much more optimal way to land with their front foot a little bit more open, and so we can really utilize more hips. But again, this guy's a tremendous athlete, super strong, and really still does a good job with the rest of it. So you can see that same, very similar position we saw Willie Mays in a little bit ago with the long back leg to his hips. Okay, semi-bent front knee here. Again, we think could be a little bit better and a little bit open front. But again, very similar here in how they're generating power. They're moving their bodies and they're setting themselves up in a position to really stretch out here. Again, you're seeing the belly button open. Okay, as we get here to this position, and we're seeing the chest and shoulders closed still just a little bit, with the barrel still above his head. Okay, that's a very, very, very good position, and something you see a lot of guys get into these days. I mean, that's the thing. These guys today are still getting to these positions, maybe not quite as aggressive in their movement, but they're still getting the good spots. And guys today are typically stronger anyway and might not need that movement, but I think we can still do it. And then from here, you see a dramatic change in the barrel position. Okay, and that's why with these cameras back in these times, you're not going to see it frame by frame. You're going to see that big jump, little bit of hip turn, big jump and barrel turn. Notice that. So you see a little bit of hip turn, bam. Okay, you see the knee move, bam. See the heel come off the ground, bam. All right, but you see that barrel drop that much. I mean, that's phenomenal. That means from here to here, he's gaining a ton of barrel speed. Okay, and if you've read of articles before, in particular the one that I wrote a little bit ago about the power of the flail, he's really starting to make that happen back here behind him, okay, as he begins to rotate his hips through. Okay, at the same time, all right, as we go another frame forward, you can see his foot now becomes, leaves the ground, so to speak, here. Okay, at the same time, his front leg begins to firm up a little bit more and start to push back a little bit. Okay, he didn't have a whole lot of knee bend, so he was lacking a little bit in that respect because He just didn't land with it bent, so he couldn't push back with it as much. Okay. Now here's where I think he kind of loses a little bit. If he were to maintain this back angle, okay, so slightly back from his spine, okay, I think he could maybe lifted this ball a little bit better. But you can see how he kind of rises up, and now he's very tall again, kind of on that against that front side as his foot come off the ground. But he's not really leaning back quite as much as we like to see. But again, he catches this ball way out in front, kind of like Mays, maybe a little deeper than the one Mays hit, but still overall very, very good lower half. And the cool thing about this frame here is you see the catcher. And I like to point out, okay, so here comes the ball. We can see the path of the ball, right? And then we can see Hank Aaron's barrel coming in from beside it, all right, which will then come in from behind it, right, and the catcher's mitt. So we're seeing all these things in line that really show and should prove and really continue to spread the word that swinging down through the ball is never going to get the ball up in the air the way we want to get it up in the air. We're not saying fly balls are what we want for all of our guys at all, but we are saying that ground balls don't work, especially once you get to a certain level. And so we really see Hank do a great job of snapping that barrel back here behind him. Notice how his knob and his hands are still relatively close to his shoulders right here. He's getting a little long in the arms, but the barrel's really flying from behind here. I mean, this is really some super speed here. He pulls his foot off the ground. This is the explosive part of being athletic. His foot comes off the ground. His barrel flies in from right in front of the catcher's mitt behind the ball, and then into contact, and he just murders this ball straight ahead, and then continues to turn his foot way up in the air, okay, and then finishes with his foot down. Again, you're seeing very similar finish positions as we said before that you see very in common with guys that swing in an explosive athletic style. Front leg is straight, all right, within this finish is a little bit more leaning back than Mays, which was good to see. But again, it's kind of where he was at contact that we wanted to kind of mention there. So again, very good stuff, very cool stuff. Always to come back and watch these guys and see these positions these guys get to with this landing and this hip turn right here and that forward movement, barrel coming in from behind the ball, and then continuing to rotate all the way through the end of the swing. And again, you see that iconic 44 showing up. So again, very cool to watch, and I'm always super excited to do these types of articles and look back. And these guys were good for a reason too. They weren't just better because they were better. They were better because they moved like this. They were power hitters because they moved like this, and they'll always be remembered because they moved like this. And it showed up in the stats. So very good to see Hank Aaron, Baseball Rebellion style, loving it. And we'll see you guys next time.